The screen fades in from black. The sound of distant explosions rolls through the air, low and heavy, like thunder. A helicopter blade slowly beats in the background as grainy footage of Vietnam fills the screen-thick jungle. Smoke rising from shattered hillsides, soldiers moving cautiously through the trees. A calm but serious voice begins. In war, there are moments when everything falls apart, when leaders are gone, when fear takes over, and when survival seems impossible. On one isolated hill in Vietnam in 1970, that moment came suddenly and violently. The footage cuts to a quiet hilltop, then erupts into chaos. Mortar blasts, dirt and fire thrown into the air. Enemy mortar rained down without warning. The ground shook. Men were killed, others were wounded. And in just minutes, the command structure of an entire battalion was shattered. A brief pause. Every American advisor was either dead or seriously wounded, except one. The music slowly rises. His name was Sergeant First Class Gary Lee Littrell. The screen shows a still photo of Littrell, young and focused. He was not supposed to be in charge. He was not the commander. He was not backed by reinforcements or armored vehicles. He was a lone American advisor standing beside South Vietnamese Rangers on a remote hill called Dak Seang, deep inside enemy territory. A map of Vietnam fades in. Con Tum province is highlighted. A red dot appears over Dak Seang. In April of 1970, Littrell and the Vietnamese Rangers of the 23rd Battalion were sent to hold this position, a small hill surrounded by jungle and controlled by enemy forces. They were outnumbered, surrounded, and cut off from escape. The sounds of gunfire fading quietly. Their mission was simple on paper: hold the hill. But what followed would push every man there beyond the limits of human endurance. A slow zoom into the hill on the map. For the next 4 days, this hill would become a battlefield of fire, blood, and unbreakable will, a place where one soldier refused to let hundreds of others die. The music softens. This is not just a war story. This is the story of what happens when one man chooses to stand when everyone else has fallen. Smoke drifts slowly across the screen as the sound of distant explosions echoes through the jungle. A helicopter thumps overhead, fading in and out like a heartbeat. Vietnam, 1970, a land torn apart by war, where hills and villages change hands every day and survival is never guaranteed. On a small hill in Con Tum province, far from the world's attention, hundreds of South Vietnamese Rangers are preparing for another long night. They are tired, they are surrounded, and they don't know that in just moments everything will change. Suddenly the sky erupts. Mortar rounds crash into the hilltop, tearing through the trees and the men beneath them. Dirt, fire, and metal fly in every direction. Radios go silent, leaders fall, confusion spreads. When the smoke clears, the entire American advisory team is either dead or wounded, except for one man. Sergeant First Class Gary Lee Littrell is still standing, and what he does next will save hundreds of lives. Gary Lee Littrell was not a famous general or a battlefield celebrity. He was a career soldier, tough, quiet, and deeply experienced. By 1970, he was serving as a light weapons infantry advisor with the United States Military Assistance Command in Vietnam. His job was to fight alongside South Vietnamese troops, training them, advising them, and when necessary, standing beside them under fire. Littrell was assigned to the 23rd Battalion of the 2nd Ranger Group of the Republic of Vietnam Army. These Rangers were elite soldiers, known for their courage and discipline. Together, they were sent to a remote and dangerous outpost near Dak Seang, a strategic hill surrounded by enemy forces. The hill was vital. If it fell, the enemy would gain control over the entire region. But the Rangers and their American advisors were badly outnumbered, isolated, and exposed. When the attack came, it came with overwhelming force and everything depended on one man's will to endure. On April 4, 1970, the enemy struck without warning. Mortar rounds slammed into the Ranger position, exploding across the hilltop with terrifying precision. In seconds, the command post was hit. The Vietnamese battalion commander was killed instantly. One American advisor was killed. The rest were severely wounded. Through the smoke and chaos, Littrell realized something terrible. He was now the only able-bodied advisor left. Despite the constant shelling, he rushed from position to position, checking on wounded men, dragging them into cover and reorganizing defenses. He grabbed radios and began calling in artillery strikes, guiding friendly fire onto enemy positions that were closing in. Every time he exposed himself to enemy fire, death came inches away. Shrapnel cut the air. Bullets snapped past his head. Yet Littrell refused to slow down. He knew that if he stopped, the battalion would collapse. Hundreds of soldiers were depending on him and he would not abandon them. As the sun rose and set over Dak Seang, the attacks never stopped. The enemy launched assault after assault, trying to overwhelm the Rangers and wipe them from the hill. Ammunition ran low. Men were wounded faster than they could be treated. Exhaustion set in. Still, Littrell kept moving. By day, he directed artillery and airstrikes, calling them dangerously close to the Ranger positions to stop enemy advances. By night, he used flares to mark the battalion's location so friendly aircraft could drop supplies and provide cover. He spoke to the Rangers in their own language, shouting encouragement, refusing to let fear break their will. He helped redistribute ammunition, strengthened weak points in the defense, and personally treated the wounded whenever he could. For 4 days, he barely rested, he barely ate, he never stopped. His courage became the backbone of the battalion, and without him they would not have survived. Eventually, the order came to withdraw. The Rangers could no longer hold the hill, but leaving was just as dangerous as staying. As the battalion moved through the jungle, enemy forces waited in ambush. Gunfire erupted from all sides. Panic threatened to spread. Once again, Littrell took control. He grabbed his radio and called in airstrikes, closer than anyone thought safe. Bombs and rockets struck just 50 meters from their position, tearing apart the enemy and giving the Rangers a chance to keep moving. Time after time, Littrell directed fire while under direct attack, standing tall when everyone else was diving for cover. His actions prevented the battalion from being cut off and destroyed. By the time they finally reached safety, hundreds of soldiers were alive who should have been lost, because one man refused to give up. For 4 days on a hill in Vietnam, Gary Lee Littrell displayed a level of courage that defies ordinary understanding. He faced constant danger, crushing exhaustion, and overwhelming enemy forces, yet he never once put his own life ahead of the men he was protecting. His leadership saved an entire battalion. His determination turned chaos into survival, and his example showed what true bravery looks like when everything is on the line. For his actions at Dak Seang, Littrell was awarded the Medal of Honor, the highest military decoration in the United States. But his real legacy isn't just a medal. It is the hundreds of lives that walked away from that hill because one man chose to stand, fight, and lead when no one else could. Gary Lee Littrell's story is a reminder that even in the darkest moments of war, one person's courage can change everything.